Good evening. I'm Mei Hong, the Executive Director of the Chinese Culture Connection. On behalf of our collaborators, thank you so much for attending Modern Civic Engagement Series, meaning the Middlesex 35th District Candidates Forum, Paul Donato, Nichole Mossalam, and Zayda Ortiz. Unfortunately, Paul Donato cannot join us tonight. However, his campaign manager, Michael Mullen, is here with us tonight. If you have any questions for Paul, please feel free to talk to Michael after the event. Before we begin the program, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the City of Malden and Mayor Gary Christensen for accommodating this event by opening this beautiful chamber room for us. I would like to thank our special moderator, Yahoo Miller, for being here tonight to moderate this event. And many thanks to our candidates for your presence to engage this evening's dialogue. Our collaborators, APISCAN, Asian Community Development Corporation, the American Association for Arab Women, the Chinese Progressive Association, Democrat Hubs, Greater Modern Asian American Coalition, Modern Jewish Alliance, and Mask Senior Action, and of course, the Massachusetts Voters Table. Thank you for making this event possible for all effort and hard work. Civic engagement has never been more critical than today. The world has become more interconnected, and yet we have become more divided. In many ways, as an immigrant, I have never been so acutely aware of how government policies can impact the quality of our lives until the last decades, and more so in recent years. The primary purpose of a government is to maintain order, stability, that people can live safely, productively, and happily. In a democratic country, or supposedly, the source of a government's authority is the people, the collective body of citizens by and for whom the government is established. However, we have witnessed in recent years is entirely contrary to the principles of the founding fathers. Our Civic Engagement Forum aims to help our communities become more educated and informed voters. So please encourage your neighbors to register to vote and to become American citizens if they are able. And if you wanted to call America home, we need to be more actively engaged in a community. Voting is the only way to express our voices. If you want to be heard, be included, you must vote. So without further ado, I would like to invite Karen Chen, the Executive Director of the Chinese Progressive Association, who will give us an overview of the election.
Thank you, May. Can everyone hear me? I just want to do a little check for the people who are wearing the interpreter equipment, make sure they can hear. 咁我想問下咧，就係話如果你係用緊翻譯機嘅話咧，聽唔聽到？如果聽到舉手啦。如果你用翻譯機的，聽不聽得到 ？OK， 如果陣間咧你突然間個機咧冇電或者聽唔到嘅話咧，你舉手，咁我哋可以去幫你 ，OK？So 等會的話，如果你的翻譯機沒有電或聽不到的話，你可以舉手，那麼我們可以幫忙 ，OK？OK，all right, great. So I think that we are all set. Thank you, May. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the overview of this year's election. Up here on the screen is a little, timeline. So I think that, all of us probably already know that by now. The primary will be on September 3rd, right? What day is it? What day of the week is it?
Tuesday.
That's right. Okay, so that's great. So I probably don't even need to do this presentation now, but just a few reminders. So usually voter registration deadline, it's about 10 days before election day. So for this particular election, it will be August 24th. So it would be, if you know that a neighbor who just moved to Malden, they want to register to vote in this election, they should register by the 24th. If you need to change your party, your political party, your address, this is you can do it. You still have time until August 24th. And then we all know that vote by mail is something that actually, passed to make voting more accessible. And there is a deadline for when you can apply for vote by mail. That would be August 26th before 5 p.m. And then to make voting even more accessible, there's early voting. So early voting in Malden will be August 24th to the 29th. So that's just for this year, this election. There's more timeline, but we can actually go over that at the next forum. And so I'm just going to also talk a little about what will be on your ballot this year, right? So everybody, know that the presidential primary was in March, right? I hope you guys all went to vote for that. And so this one is the state primary. And what will be on your ballot will be U.S. Senator. So that would be, federal, right? U.S. Senator. And does anyone know how often U.S. Senators are elected? All right. Good job. 6 years. Okay. What about U.S. representative? How many years? 2. All right. Great. You guys all excellent citizens. And then governor's council. So that's something that we don't hear about a lot. That also gets elected, right, every 2 years. And there's 8 of them in the whole state. And they advised the governor, they meet weekly, advise them on pardons and also any gubernatorial appointments, including judges. So that's also on your ballot. And then there's your state senator. How often state senators are elected? 2, right? That's great. And then state rep. 2. So today we're here for, the state rep for the 35th Middlesex County. We all know that, I probably don't need to explain it. Your state rep, right? Propose laws and they vote on laws, right? That pertains to the state. And then also the budget as well, they play a big role in it. So, and also, a lot of state reps also provide a lot of constituent services, just like your city council. So you will hear from them what they will do for our 35th Middlesex District. And then also on your ballot will be a Register of Deeds. So Register of Deeds, it's usually the person who actually keep records of all the lands and where the line drew up between you and your neighbor. And then there's also clerks of court. They're basically a liaison between, the lawyers or you and the judge. And, any procedural questions you have, you can go to the clerks of the courts. So that's what will be on your ballot. And then, so you'd be like, hey, you know what? The state sent me a vote by mail, application. I lost it. What do? You still can fill out one. We actually have some extra applications, actually. And if you go to the Secretary of State website, it actually have different languages. They have at least, Chinese, English, and Spanish. And then, so I want to explain a little bit why this is a primary. What's the difference from the general election? So a primary is actually an election by party. So we have today the candidates for the Democratic Party, but also if you register as a Republican, then you will actually get the Republican primary ballot. But if you register as a Democrat, then you get a Democrat. So they're different colors. So, make sure that you get the right ballot. If it's incorrect or you forgot what party you register for, you still can go to the election department and fill out a new voter registration form declaring which party you want. Or that if you're unenrolled on your application for vote by mail, you can indicate which party a ballot you would like. Okay, so we're gonna pause for a few minutes we have some technical difficulty with Cantonese interpretation. Okay, does anybody know what color is the Democratic ballot? It's actually orange.
I was gonna say it's orange. I didn't want to. I didn't want to get it. Sorry.
The Republican was blue. I think Arian,
Is
also,
green?
no, it's a purple.
Purple.
Yeah,
okay.
lilac. Lilac. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, I know. You only get one, so you don't know what the other colors are. So, and we try to find it online. And I couldn't actually get a purple one, so there wasn't any in line. So these are things we find in line. So, okay. OK 啦嘛？可以繼續啦嘛？ Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So I think that most of the audience actually more knowledgeable than me on all the election stuff. So here we go. So if you do get a vote by mail, right, you get one, not all of them. Okay, if you get all of them, that's we got to talk to election department, right? So when you get one of these ballots, you want to make sure it's the party of your preference, right? If not, you still have until the 24th, or that if it's a clerical error by the city, you can also just come to City Hall and talk to them about it. Right? And then you will also have a little envelope that you have to sign. If you don't sign this, they cannot accept the ballot. So you have to sign it, you put your address, right? And then you put your ballot in there and then you seal it. And then after that, you also have to put on a second envelope, and that's white. That should be addressed to Malden Election Department. And then, you probably want to write your return address if you have a hard time sometimes. I think some election department have a little sticker. They already have your address on it. And you don't need to put postage on it. And this is something that actually the advocates advocated for, to make sure that your ballot will get to the election department. You can throw in the mail, or you can actually throw at this little box when you're walking in. I don't know if you recognize that little box. I know that they collect anything you wanted to, for City Hall after hours. But you can drop off your vote by mail ballot on this into this box as well. Okay, so here are all of the early voting times for Malden. So on the weekends, they are open from 9 to 1. So anytime you want to vote, you can come in here, right? City Hall right here. And then throughout the week, it's 8 to 4. But on Tuesdays, they open later to 7. I think it kind of corresponds with the City Hall office hours as well. Everyone should have, gotten this. And if you don't remember, go back on the website to look it up. Okay. And then on election day, what time's polls are open? 7 to 8, right? Okay, so you have no excuse. Like, I'm busy that day. But you know what? 7 to 8. Okay, it's your last chance. It will be the 3rd. If you're like the 3rd, I'm really busy, you can vote early, or you can get vote by mail. And you can actually, if you scan the QR code, that should be able to help you find where your polling location is. Or if you want to remember it, it's wheredoivotema.com. You go in there, you input your address. You actually can see all the 3 major parties and who are the candidates on your ballot. Okay, and then I don't know what the timing is. I can do this on the end if you tell me to do that in the end. So I want to give people a little preview of the general election. So how are we doing with time?
37.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to save it to the end to do this. Yeah, because I know that everyone is anticipating to hear from the candidates. So I'm gonna do this in the end, okay? So don't leave until I talk about what happens in the general election. All right? Okay. So now it's my honor to introduce Yawu. I think you guys are ready. Heard a little bit from me. So I'm just saying a little bit about who Yawu is. So he's a journalist of over 30 years in Boston. And he served as the editor at the Bay State Banner and wrote extensively on politics, community development, social movements, education, and other areas impacting communities of color in and around Boston. And Yahoo is currently working to launch the Greater Boston News Bureau, a nonprofit newsroom that will expand news coverage of Black, Latino, and Asian communities in the Boston area. So please give a warm welcome to Yahoo.
Thank you all for being here. Your presence here, your participation in this forum strengthens democracy. And thanks to everyone who's joining us via live stream. And also thank you to the candidates for having the courage and conviction to run and represent what you believe in. I'm going to go over the ground rules and then we'll get into the questions. So first of all, the moderator, that's me, will read all the questions with time for interpretation. Please respect the timekeepers. And you'll get, the timekeepers are sitting in the front with the red shirts and you'll get notifications for 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then when to stop. You'll get 2 minute answers, 2 minutes for short answer questions. You'll also have 2 minutes for your opening statements and closing statements. There are yes or no answers only for our rapid response, and that's with your red card or green card. I don't think I have to say this, but I'll say it anyway. No interrupting, no speaking over, and no arguing. And I'm going to practice this as well. Please speak slower for the interpreters to be able to properly interpret. So we're going to try to speak slowly so that we can be interpreted well. And that's it. So we'll get into the questions. And I think that we'll start with Nichole and then go to Zayda for the first question and then go back the other way for the second question. Okay. The first question is on housing affordability. Developers, large property owners, and speculators benefit from rising housing costs. Yet working people and renters are struggling to afford a decent place to live. What will you do to keep Malden and Medford affordable to working people, renters, and those who want to stay in our neighborhoods but are getting priced out?
You were going first.
I didn't leave space for opening statements. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. I was like, are we making them closing statements?
We need a moderator to moderate the moderator. Thank you.
You do an excellent job. So, sorry, is my mic on? There we go. And before my time begins, where are the translators? Who's oh, thank you. So if you need me to slow down or stop, just wave at me. There we go. Thanks. So thank you everyone so much for being here tonight. I definitely first and foremost want to thank the organizers of this forum. We wouldn't be here without them. And of course, our very important guests, all of you, the voters. So my name is Nichole Mossalam. I have served this community for over a decade at this point. You know, as a MOS director, as a member of the Disability Commission, as a community advocate, and being on the front lines, helping to protect marginalized communities. I did have a more in-depth introduction prepared, but I decided to set that aside based off of a conversation that I had earlier today with someone who thankfully made use of the phone number that is on our campaign literature. Give me a call and ask some questions. And we had a very moving discussion. And it made me realize that I don't share my family history that much. What motivates me to run for this position is really to serve all of you. My name, Nichole, comes from my grandfather, Domenico. They called him Nico for short. I'm his namesake, his legacy. And I was raised at my mother's knee with stories of how they came to this country from Palermo and they worked really hard.
He was a steel worker in the Steelworkers Union, and if family lore is to be believed, he actually ran for national president and fell short by 1 vote. So I share a little bit in common with him because I fell short by 50 votes last time. So, but no, he was a man very generous of heart. And in fact, whoops. So that was my time, I think, for 2 minutes. But just to say, in conclusion, that he was a man with a very generous heart. He took in people coming to this country into their home, shared bread with them, provided a place to stay, and gave them the tools that they needed to take their families and build a brighter future. And that's what I hope to carry on, that legacy. And I pray that I can only reach maybe a fraction of what he did, because on the day that he passed and we all went to say our goodbyes, hundreds of people showed up at his funeral to remember his legacy. So I hope you'll join me in carrying that on. Thank you.
All right, since Nichole went over a little bit, we'll give Zayda a little extra time.
It's Zayda.
Zayda, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, everyone. I also want to thank May and the Chinese Cultural Connection, GMAC, and all the other organizations. There's a whole alphabet list of people. I guess I could use that time for that. But like I said, my name is Zayda Ortiz, and I'm running to be your next state representative. I am the daughter of Mexican immigrants who taught me to always be a helper. When they immigrated here after a hurricane destroyed their entire livelihood, their home, and their business, there were people that stepped up in our community in Oklahoma and helped them out to get settled. And it was our duty as immigrants to help the next group of immigrants that were coming in. It is a value that was taught to me and that I carry to this day. I have always been out to help. Whether I've been in healthcare or whether it's my advocacy work, helping is something I do. I, again, as a bilingual person, translating is also something that comes very naturally to me. And in healthcare, I was able to navigate the dizzying healthcare system, the insurance and diagnoses to help others figure out how they were going to move forward with devastating diagnoses and or challenging futures. I am proud of partnering with GMAC in the past during the pandemic to bring culturally competent meals to our Asian neighbors. And I am proud to have worked with Mei Hung on the Fair Share Amendment. We were able to knock 10,000 doors across Massachusetts between the two of us in our organizations. And we were able to bring $5.1 billion this year to Massachusetts. That being said, the State House isn't working for all of us. Out of 7,000 bills, only hundreds were passed. And of those hundreds, many of them were left on the table, like our language access bill, like TOPA, or a housing bill that was just passed after the legislative cycle. I have been advocating at the State House for years now, and every year we have to start all over again. And because we have to start all over again, advocates have to build momentum, build movement year after year. I want things to change, and I think I'm that change. I hope I can earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And now we'll begin with the questions, and I'll repeat question 1. Developers, large property owners, and speculators benefit from rising housing costs, yet working people and renters are struggling to afford a decent place to live in our community. What will you do to keep Malden and Medford affordable to working people, renters, and those who want to stay in our neighborhoods but are getting priced out?
Thank you. In my role as a nonprofit director, this is something that I have to tackle every single day, and it's heartbreaking. seeing children and families being put on the street because they can't afford to keep a roof over their head. And I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. Now, we do have some vital legislation that has already been introduced to the State House by a good friend, Rep. Mike Connolly. We know that there is a tenant bill of rights. We know that we've discussed reasonable caps on rent increases, rent stabilization, and we do need to make sure that we bring everybody to the table. Just this weekend, I was speaking with a homeowner who wants to be part of the solution. And he shared that he's been charging below market rent for over 8 years. And he's concerned that if we cap that, when it does come time for him to increase, he would be in great difficulty. So we do need to take into account our small homeowners, as well as treating in a separate category these big predatory developers who do not act in good faith within our communities. So we need to address restrictive zoning. We need to make sure that tenants and small homeowners have protections. We need to make sure that rent price stabilizes across the Commonwealth and we're not seeing fixed markets like we are with these predatory developers. And we need to make sure that we adopt a housing first model when it comes to tackling homelessness. And this is something that I helped advocate for in Utah, of all places. And the data shows that it does help combat this critical issue. Thank you.
Before Zayda answers the question, I'd like to ask everybody to silence all of your electronic devices, and please refrain from any side conversations while this debate is in session. Zayda.
Thank you. Well, like I said in my opening statements, we just passed a housing bill, Bill 51B, and it did have some good things in it, but a lot of things were left on the table. Things like eviction ceilings, foreclosure mediations. They were able to open up an office for fair housing, and I am stunned that in the year of our Lord 2024, this is a new thing. But I'm happy, and I thank Rep. Donato for his leadership in that. As Ms. Mossalam said, one of the biggest problems that we are missing is something that helps our renters. 58% of Malden residents are renters. And because of that, we need to make sure that we have a mixed income housing, meaning that we are looking at low income housing. We already have these beautiful apartments across that are high income, and something for the average working class family. In Medford, there is a lot of empty real estate, and I think that there is something that we could do along that, turning commercial real estate into housing. I also think that we need to figure out how to hold these developers accountable so that we have a fixed number, and it is not city to city, but across the state, 20% of medium to low income housing for all this luxury housing that we have. Thank you.
Our next question for Zayda will be on language access. Malden is very diverse, and Medford is becoming more diverse. The 35th Middlesex District comprises 43,578 people, of which 59% are white, 17% are Asian, 10% are Black/African American, and 8% are Latinx. The question is, where within the state and city can language access be improved upon to meet the needs of this diverse district?
Thank you for that. Yes, I believe our high school here in Malden speaks up to 68 different languages. So it is something that I know is a challenge for government. And I think that thanks to the Chinese progressives and other organizations here, we have really been leading in the state. But that doesn't mean that there's not room to change. The language access bill, which was called the Language Access and Inclusion Bill, died at Ways and Means. What that means in English is basically that it went through the entire process except getting to the floor for a vote. The State House did the least amount of votes in the last 100 years this past year. And this was one of the bills that we could have passed. It's a no-brainer. We have so many people that are speaking so many different languages. We need to be more inclusive. And it is a shame that the State House could not bring this forth. That doesn't mean that it couldn't pass in the next 6 weeks, because they do have informal sessions. I was a member of the Language Access Coalition, which is called Mass Speaks. And I will be getting myself together, whether I'm in the State House or as an advocate, to make sure that it passes next cycle, because we almost got it through. Thank you.
Thank you. Nichole, where within the state and city can language access be improved upon to meet the needs of this diverse district?
Really, there is always room for improvement. And while Malden has hired a language coordinator, Elena, who we're very thankful for, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So in my role, an advocate for the community, I help a lot of diverse families who do have language needs. And we're not linguistically diverse enough when it comes to our education. Families struggle to get proper information. While it is well-intentioned, we have relied too much on Google Translate, which can sometimes come out as gibberish for some of the more difficult languages. So I think we need to pull more native speakers into this process and get their input. We need to make sure that we're understanding cultural sayings, because sometimes that gets lost in translation as well. So to sum it all up together, being proactively inclusive goes beyond just language. We need to get to learn culture. We need to get to know their background and their history. And we should be celebrating that. I know that we used to have a multicultural event over at the high school, which unfortunately was a casualty to COVID. We need to see that come back. We can also begin to look at things of maybe to help downsize the amount of languages that we're looking at, to look at core languages. When it comes to Haitian Creole, they also understand French, as well as those who come from Morocco or Algeria. So we can look for common denominators. Thank you.
Next question is on job opportunities.
Oh,
Nichole.
I didn't respond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you mind,
No.
do you mind rereading it to me just really quickly?
Yeah, sorry. It was language access.
The second,
Uh,
you had a follow-up or no?
No,
Oh, that wasn't a follow-up.
No
Oh, I'm sorry. I
follow-up.
thought that was a follow-up. Sorry.
It's okay.
okay. So, job opportunities, Nichole, many Americans are struggling to make ends meet. What are the ways you think the state can create more opportunities for well-paid and stable jobs for working people?
Well, basically, we're neglecting the trades. We do have a big shortage when it comes to trades, and it's creating a bit of a pocket pinch for the rest of us as well. I don't know about all of you, but when I had some plumbing problems over the winter, it was really hard to find somebody. So I do believe that we should be investing more into training. We need to make sure that we're offering these different options, basically. Right now, most children, when they graduate from school, they are not prepared to go out into the world and be self-sufficient. Adulting 101 basics. They can't, take care of their own cars. They don't know how to balance their checkbook. We need to address this first and foremost. Then we also need to let them know that a traditional four-year college is not for everyone. And that is okay. Everybody is different. We have different skills. And so we need to be able to encourage our youth to find their way. And this is how we'll be able to create a more diverse workforce and breathe vitalization into some of the fields that really haven't had much of a pipeline to have people going in. Thank you.
Zayda.
Thank you. I mean, the biggest problem that we have here in Malden and Medford that I see is that we are not investing in small businesses. We have a lot of micro businesses and small businesses, and they, especially our restaurants here in Malden, have been closing left and right and moving out of the city and out into other cities that are welcoming them. I found out last week that the Anheuser-Busch warehouse in Medford will be closing. That's 500 jobs that we're losing. And these are people that are all in middle age and or low skill workers. We need to be able to find ways so they can transition into other industries like green jobs. We have again, another bill that died on the vine was a bill to invest in lifelong training, especially for the labor and the union guys who are being transitioned out of natural gas and things like that. So I think that investing specifically in job retraining and education is something that we need to promote lifelong learning when it comes to transitioning from one kind of position to another. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 4. This is for Zayda. Anti-Asian hate, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia are on the rise. The Associated Press report in November of 2023 states that 1 in 3 Asian American and Pacific Islanders faced racial abuse. WBUR reported that anti-Semitic acts have increased close to 190% in Massachusetts, leading into February of 2024. NPR reported that a study shows nearly half, 46% of Jewish respondents say they've changed their behavior due to fear, and the Council on American Islamic Relations has released data that shows the number of complaints of anti-Muslim incidents in 2023 increased by 56% compared to 2022. Question: what will you do to help the residents of the 35th Middlesex District to feel safe and welcomed and foster healing across our diverse communities?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I will start off by saying that it is kind of a core value of mine as well. I've always stood up for all the communities in our diverse city. It is one of the reasons that I picked Malden to live in, because I want to live somewhere where we have all sorts of languages being spoken. I love going to garden in the community garden and just sit there while I'm weeding away, listening to people have conversations in all sorts of different languages. You know, when the Trump administration got into power and the first thing they did was a Muslim ban, I was downtown. When the incident in Atlanta, the spa happened for our Asian brothers and sisters, and they wanted to have a vigil here, I was there. I helped them organize. I did what I could. It is not okay for our neighbors to feel like they're in fear. And I've spoken to both Muslim and Jewish people, and I hear their fear. And I want to listen because it is not directly affecting me, but I want to hear from people. I also want people to understand each other's humanity. And honestly, that is the core value of all of this work that I'm trying to do. And so constantly being sure that we're centering humanity and making sure that our neighbors don't feel afraid is what I would like to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Nichole, what will you do to help the residents of the 35th Middlesex to feel safe and welcomed and foster healing across diverse communities?
This is an issue that is very near and dear to my heart. Yes, we've been seeing a rise, but unfortunately, this has been simmering under the surface for years. In fact, I was almost assaulted when I knocked on a door back in 2022 as someone screamed at me that this is the devil's house and don't knock here again. Or earlier this year, because of the rising tensions, we've seen a young Muslim child, basically, they were poisoned by their classmates because of being Muslim. The only way that we can be able to bridge these divides and begin healing within our community is really to recognize that we are stronger together than we are divided. And this is a principle that I have upheld ever since moving here over a decade ago. When the Holocaust Memorial in Boston was shattered, I stood together arm in arm with my Jewish brothers and sisters to make sure that our community knew that hate does not have a home here. When it came to one of our young sisters being disciplined for wearing a hijab to school, for observing her faith, we were there, not to condemn, but to open dialogue with restorative justice and have critical discussions, not just with the school that was involved, but with representatives of all faiths. We went out of our way to make sure that everybody had a seat at the table. This is what I pledge to continue to do, whether it's at Beacon Hill, whether it's at Midford City Hall, or right here in Malden. I'll be arm in arm with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question is on healthcare. Again, I'm going to ask people to keep the to not have side conversations while this is happening. Massachusetts, so for Nichole, Massachusetts and especially Greater Boston rank high when it comes to healthcare access, but there's still work to be done. If elected, what steps would you take and what would want the legislature to take to improve access to healthcare and reduce costs of care and medications?
So thankfully, the answer to this really is simple: universal health care for all. By making sure that everybody has equal access to affordable, quality health care. And really, with our current system, as great as Massachusetts is, last year was very eye-opening for me. For those of you who may not know, last year I was diagnosed with cancer. And in fact, this week is my 1-year anniversary of finishing my chemo treatments. So very excited to still be here, very blessed. But through that experience, I got to see firsthand the struggles that come with not having the blessing of health. I lost my job. Our family struggled to make ends meet. And while I went through this very, very difficult time and thanked God every single day when a new bill came in thousands of dollars that I had adequate coverage for, I realized that those out there don't. And I also had wonderful support team to help me navigate the bureaucracy. And I realized that there are many out there who don't. I could not imagine having to go through all of that without the many blessings and support system that I had. And I do know that every single day, there are residents here in Massachusetts who unfortunately don't have those things. So we need to make sure that we decrease bureaucracy, we decrease hurdles, and we improve healthcare outcomes by removing bias from the healthcare system, making sure that we have adequate nurse to patient ratios, and also making sure that nobody has to fight for the proper health coverage. Thank you.
Zayda, again, what steps would you take and expect the legislature to take to improve access to healthcare, reduce costs of care and medications?
Yeah, I mean, again, I hate to bring up more things that the legislature did not pass, but the drug pricing regulation bill was something that was left on the table as well in Ways and Means, as well as the hospital oversight. We have what's going on with the hospitals down at Kearney and up in the North Shore that are being closed because we have allowed healthcare to become a for-profit industry when it literally has the word health and care in its system. We need to center care and stop centering dollars. I agree that the long-term goal is single-payer healthcare, but right now we need help with what's going on. There is no regulations on how much middle management in middle management people get paid. There is no regulations around how for-profit industries in the healthcare system come in and are predatory. This bill that was on the at the State House would have helped start with that. And we need to have real oversight over how people are cared for. How many nurses, how many patients does each nurse have? How many people are waiting? What are the wait times for ambulances? We're having a shortage of ambulances right now because people can't get into the emergency rooms. And with the closing of more hospitals, that's just going to get worse. And so I would propose that we would start auditing that and looking into how we can start our path to single payer. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is on climate change advocacy, and I'll be asking Zayda. As Massachusetts advances in energy efficiency and transitions to renewable energy, there's a growing need to support workforce transitions and economic diversification for industries affected by this shift, such as fossil fuels and energy-intensive manufacturing. What is your plan to transition our energy system away from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources? And how would you ensure that this shift to a green economy creates jobs and supports workers, especially those in industries that might be negatively impacted by climate policies?
Yeah, thank you. I mentioned some of it during my jobs position, but there is a wonderful climate bill that again was in Ways and Means. Sorry, I'm a broken record now with this. But it was a wonderful climate bill that would have done a lot of things like the Make Polluters Pay bill. I was coordinating with Mass 350 in Medford to get a resolution passed there so that we can start building the momentum for next year, because that's what we have to do as advocates year after year. Start building momentum before the legislative starts, because we know this isn't going to pass. The Make the Polluters Pay bill would make large gas and oil companies pay a tax, a levy, that would go into investing into green energy. And I think that is a wonderful way of getting things like that taken care of. I also think that, as I said, the job transition that we need to do, we have a lot of workers that work in fossil fuel industries. We need to be able to transition them into green energy. And there are a lot of programs that the AFL-CIO and the IBEW will want to put forth, but they need funding, and that comes from the State House. Thank you.
Nichole, again, what is your plan to transition our energy system away from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources, and how would you ensure that this shift to a green economy creates jobs, supports workers, especially those in industries that might be negatively impacted by climate change?
Oddly enough, this question makes me think about a little high school reading. I'm about to shock y'all. Ayn Rand, I know. But in one of her books, Anthem, I remember this scene very much so. When the main character basically goes on an archaeological dig, is looking for the history, and they find a light bulb. And they go before the Council of Scientists and say, oh, this would make our lives so much better. Let's make this. Let's improve our lives. And the scientists were like, it's a good invention, but what about the candle makers? What about the people who go around and light all the candles on the streets? What about their jobs? And so this is a theme that I hear, when we talk about green jobs and transitioning away from fossil fuels. What about these jobs? And so, yes, we do need to provide training. Yes, we need to fund that training so that people can properly transition. We also need to make sure that our communities are resilient. We have the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program that we should be able to fund. We do have grants available through that, and I believe that we need to have more. Also, really, it comes to you and me on an everyday basis. And we know that our legislature isn't doing its job. We know that there are several bills that get held up and never see the light of day. So that means that there is a responsibility on all of us to live in a green way and to make sure that we are modeling the best for our future. Thank you.
We're going to take a pause now for a couple of minutes to fix the translation for Cantonese. Also, I want to remind the audience that this is the last call now for audience questions. So if you have questions, please get those in now.
What happens is like it's off. You can't see going.
That's good.
Good, I'm like deer in the headlight. I'm just like, I'm in my notes. I got my notes. I'm good to go. Thank you.
This is really the common sense way.
We're going to lightning round next. Is it already?
Maybe you want to
Is there one more? I couldn't remember.
turn your microphone on.
Like it's like every day thing. It's like it's working. Okay. So you switch, yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask people to return to their seats.
Yeah.
Okay, can we return to our seats now? The translation issues have been fixed. Everybody, please take a few seconds to return to your seats and wrap up your conversations. Just one. Yeah. Just one out randomly. They draw them or? Okay. I think Zayda, you answered the last question, right? Or, no, Nicole did. I'm sorry, so.
It's like,
So-
no, I can't remember.
Question 7, the last of our long questions, is about affordable childcare. Nichole, working families are struggling to find reliable and affordable daycare and after-school programs for their children. How do you see the state supporting these programs?
Most definitely. So I believe it was not too long ago where a study was released that when it comes to the costs of annual childcare, it's more than college tuition. And families are really feeling that pinch. So we do need to increase funding to programs. Okay. We need to increase funding to programs that help families cover the costs of childcare. We also need to invest in before school programs and after school programs as working families struggle to make sure that their children are taken care of. And I know this is a big issue here in Malden because I'm one of the parents who plays carpool and watches, children for working families while I work from home. So this is something that we need to make sure that we're taking care of at the preschool level, infancy, all the way up through graduation. Really, our children are our future. And if we can't invest in them, then I think that says a lot about our society. And we can do better. We will.
Thanks. Zayda?
Yes, thank you for that. That's an important question. Well, I've already been doing the work on this. As I mentioned earlier, Fair Share Amendment was able to generate $2.2 billion. Of that $2.2 billion, 278 million of that will be new investments in early childhood education. The goal is, and that's great, again, that's a lot of money that's going to stabilizing childcare facilities, support our educators who are doing that important work. The way a child learns is formed in those early years and making it more affordable. We're going to be able to invest and have middle and lower income families be able to have vouchers that they can do that. That doesn't mean that we're where we need to be. We should have universal pre-K, full stop. Kindergarten should be full-time. These are the most critical times in children's lives to become lifelong learners. And if we're not investing in that, we're not investing in our future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to enter our lightning round of questions. And you have yes or no cards, green for yes, red for no. There will be no verbal answers, just yes or no answer. So
we say it or we all just show it?
just hold it up.
Just hold it up. Got
Yeah.
it. Wasn't sure.
Question 1. Do you or will you support some form of rent stabilization, such as limiting the percentage of rent increases? Okay. Question 2. Do you or will you support ethnic studies that teach the history of different ethnic groups? Okay, we're going to I'm going to slow down for the interpreter.
Got it.
Do you or will you support Medicare for all? Do you or will you support a single payer healthcare system guaranteeing accessible, affordable, and quality coverage as a right while saving money for residents, businesses, and state and local government, as stated in the proposed bill by Senator Jamie Eldridge and Representative Lindsay Sabadosa? Okay. Next question. Do you or will you support policies to improve long-term care and reduced cost for seniors? Everything's a yes so far. Do you or will you support policies requiring hiring goals for Black, Indigenous, and people of color and other minority groups who are also local residents? Will you support long-term investment of public transit / MBTA to make it more reliable and more affordable? Do you or will you support non-citizens, green card holders voting in municipal elections? Do you support ballot question 2, eliminating the MCAS as a high school graduation requirement? Do you support ballot question 3, unionizing Uber and Lyft drivers? Do you support ballot question 5, eliminating sub-minimum wages for tipped workers? And I would just like to ask my own personal question. Is there anything you guys disagree on?
I'm sure after a few drinks, maybe.
Okay, for the next section, we're going to answer, you guys are going to answer questions from the audience. And
I'll read this. So
Okay,
people know
thanks.
We're there. And
thank you so much.
okay.
So here's the instructions. For the sake of fairness and making sure a variety of questions is included, we made sure to include mainly questions not asked yet. We consolidated similar questions. If your questions don't get picked, we encourage you to reach out to the candidates at the end of this event or afterwards to ask your questions. Okay. Each candidate will pick 2 questions and then read them, and then
We're ready.
one by one, you'll pass them back to me. So one more.
Oh.
These questions are for both of us? Like she'll read one and then I'll answer it as well, or
I think they're just for each.
for each of us? Okay, I wasn't sure, like. Maybe I have 3. Oh, my God. Okay,
Okay.
okay. I can't believe I got this question, but it's funny.
We'll start with that question.
Answer both questions.
Yes.
So you two
So
need to.
I'll take this one back and we'll read it back to you.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, and you have 2 minutes, each of you has 2 minutes to answer each
2
of
minutes,
these
okay.
questions. So for Zayda.
I just thought it was funny that you'll see why I think it's funny.
Here's the question for Zayda. As a Latino that works for the city of Malden, what can you do to help us advance? I currently work here for the city and I've been refused. I currently work here for the city and have been refused. What can you do to help Latinos trying to move up the ladder? So it sounds like somebody wants to.
Yeah, I know. Completely random that I just pulled that one out. As a Latina as well. I promise it wasn't fixed. I think that everyone, there's still a lot of white supremacy. I'm just gonna name it, that goes on in every aspect of our life. I think that this country is becoming more and more diverse. And I think that we're at an inflection point right now where there will be more of us. I stood up today and I'm running today because there aren't enough Latinas or Latinos running for office. There aren't enough women at the State House. And we need a diverse voice. When we have a diverse voice, we are stronger. I think that it is important, Latinos, again, and I'm going to be selfish and talk about my own ethnicity, but Latinos are literally the largest growing ethnic group in this country right now. We spend 37% of our earnings on goods, so we are consumers, and we have very little representation. So I think that what we need to do is have more and more people of color standing up and running for office, getting into those boardrooms, getting on commissions that are throughout our city. And I think with that diversity of voice, we can start to see change. Unfortunately, like everything in government, change is slow, and we just have to have paciencia y ganas. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next question, can you hand me one of yours? Thank you. All right, Nichole. What would be your plans to fix, improve, and modernize the MBTA?
Well, considering it's on fire. No, yeah, I think we're all very well aware that that requires a lot of work. But really, I've been speaking with our State House delegation. I have been speaking with workers within the MBTA to try and get, you know, a more complete picture. And yes, funding is part of the issue. However, it's not as a big part of that issue as we may think it would be. And the reason for that is the funding is not being overseen in a responsible manner. So unfortunately, we do have individuals who are in incorrect positions. We are not keeping proper oversight. And in fact, I do believe that we're currently under federal investigation because of how much our MBTA system has deteriorated. So we do need to make sure that the state auditor is empowered to have more oversight. We need to make sure that employees have more say in who is hired as supervisors. We need to make sure that we invest in going full electric with our buses and with all of our train stations. And we do also need to make sure that it is accessible. I do hear complaints constantly that stations are not accessible, trains are not accessible, and I do know that more and more routes are being cut. When it comes to, so finally what I'll leave you with is when it comes to public transit, it's not just about getting from point A to point B. It is also about our workforce and our economy. And there are studies out there that show for every dollar invested, we get $4 back in economic growth. It's common sense. Thank you.
I'll take your second question. For Zayda, why are you running for office? What motivates you to keep going?
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of my opening statement, but honestly, I am running for office because I've been advocating at the State House for many years now. And year after year, I organize with many people here in this room. I've organized with people across the state to get bills passed, to advocate. We go through the whole State House shuffle, as I call it, and nothing gets accomplished. We come to the end of the cycle. They work a 48-hour day to try to pass as many things as possible. And then we start all over again. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome. So after all these years of advocating and understanding how the State House works, building relationships with other elected officials and organizers across the state, I thought this is my time. I also, on a personal note, became a grandmother in the last 9 months, and it has really motivated me to take that next step because he deserves a better world. And what motivates me every day is waking up and seeing my supporters, seeing the people who are knocking doors for me, seeing the people who are donating even $5 when I know they don't have $5 to give me. And knowing that people in my community asked me to run for this seat. I am thankful, and whatever the outcome is, it has really shown me how much community means to me and how much I want to invest in this community back. And I hope to earn that. Thank you.
For Nichole, how long does it take a senior housing unit? How long does it take to get a senior housing unit when I submit my application in Malden?
Years
Yes.
too long.
And unfortunately, that's not just for seniors, but for any type of housing assistance within the Commonwealth. But I'd like also, it's a short answer, but I'd also like use this opportunity to say, we don't pay enough attention to the needs of our senior citizens. And just recently, I was privileged to participate in one of the workouts that they had over at the Medford Senior Center. And I was speaking with the instructor, and she told me that she had been speaking with the state delegation for a very long time about funding for a program that she would like to do. I've spoken with seniors who have stated that they are very thankful for the programming that they have here in the Malden Senior Center, but they would like to see more diversity in the levels of physical fitness when it comes to the programs that are offered. We also know that senior citizens also have lack of access at times to groceries, to transportation, which was the question that I just had. We, in Medford alone, we are a transportation desert. And so senior citizens are facing numerous challenges right now, especially with the pinch in the economy and rising inflation, healthcare, housing, food, you name it. It's unacceptable, and we can't leave anyone behind. When it comes to our state budget, it is a statement of our values. And I know we've been up here for quite some time talking about all of these different bills, all of this funding, and we know our legislature is not following through on these things. So, time for change.
We have time for one more audience question per candidate.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, it's another paragraph.
For Nichole, many Muslim students face bullying and harassment in schools due to their faith. What measures will you implement to ensure that schools provide a safe and inclusive environment for Muslim children?
Honestly, this is a big reason why I sit before you today. My own son, back in 2016, he was 8 years old at the time, came home crying because the children at school told him they didn't like Muslims and that if Trump were elected, he was going to get rid of all the Muslims. We were not welcome here, is what was communicated to him. And not just him. I can't tell you how many times I've been called into situations because of discrimination faced by our youth in our schools. And how we've been able to combat that really is through getting to know each other as neighbors. By taking that initiative to go and visit at schools and give workshops, speak with students, we need to normalize our differences. We need to be able to embrace the beautiful variety that is our community. A garden isn't beautiful because it only contains roses. It's beautiful because of all the different harmonious plants that exist together. And this is what we need to communicate. So it's about showing up. It's about having those difficult conversations and not shying away from what we think would be offensive. It is about creating welcoming spaces so that people feel comfortable getting the correct information from the right source. And that's what I have been doing and will continue to do, not just for Muslim students, but for any student that faces any form of discrimination.
And the last question for Zayda. We have two fabulous progressive candidates who are likely to split the vote and thus lose to Donato. Would you step down to allow progressive to win?
So this is the question of the night, right? And I'm going to say this straight out. I wouldn't be running for this seat if I didn't think I could win. I've been in politics for a very long time. I have run campaigns. I know how to win a campaign. And I am not just a progressive. I am a Democrat. And there are Democratic votes on the table. There are plenty of voters that I've spoken to that are Donato loyalists who are ready for change. I think that I've proven this evening that I know what I'm talking about, that I have done the work at the State House, and that I am a valid candidate on my own. I appreciate the work that Ms. Mossalam has done. I just think I can close the deal, and it's not to be arrogant or to downplay her. I have kept this race clean, and I've not said a thing about her. I just talk, and my people just talk about why I'm the right choice. And so at this moment, less than 30 days before the election, no, I am not stepping down. Thank you.
There's no rebuttals, no answers, so.
In
sorry.
good faith.
I'm just following the rules here. And closing statements, each of you has 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we'll go to Nichole.
So first, in good faith, I want to address that last question a little bit as well. Massachusetts, we have the least competitive elections in the country. And really, we would not have this forum where all of us get this wonderful information if we didn't have multiple candidates in this race. And I think we need to be thankful for everybody who is willing to step up and put themselves out there. And so with that said, I'm also running because, big surprise, I think I'm the best fit for the job. And also, it's not always about what we've done, but rather what we're going to do. So I sit before you today as a mother of 3 young children in our public schools. And as that mother, I will fight for them. I will fight for their educators to receive the investment that they deserve. And thankfully, the Massachusetts Teachers Association agrees with me and has joined our coalition with their endorsement. I will work with my colleagues to give municipalities the tools they need to tackle the affordability crisis so that no child suffers from homelessness like I did growing up. And I am humbled that I have multiple city councilors from Medford and Malden who view me as a true partner in that fight with their endorsements. And I will join hands with all of you, my neighbors, to bring accountability to our state government by holding our lawmakers to the same standards of transparency that we mandate at the local level. It is time that we tackle the culture of complacency in the State House and treat these many vital issues with the urgency they demand. And so I would be honored to earn your votes so that we may accomplish these things together.
And lastly, Zayda's closing statement.
Thank you. I want to thank the organizers again for putting this together because it is, I know, a lot of hard work. And I want to thank the translators for also making sure that people that I may not be able to speak to directly can hear from me as well. I am running to be your next state representative because it's time for change and it's time for real change. I have, throughout my career in both healthcare and as a political advocate, have used my natural skills as a navigator and a translator to build bridges between people, whether it's in coalitions, in our neighborhoods, or at the State House. I know how to get people together in a room and figure out how to build bridges and to build and work collaboratively. I think that it's important that you are knowledgeable of how the State House works. I am not going in there with my eyes closed thinking I'm going to change everything myself. I know that there's going to be a lot of building that needs to happen in that building before we can actually have real change. But I am determined and I am tenacious. And I promise to take those skills to the State House to work for you. I want to make myself available to all of you. That is something that we are hardly lacking in this space in the 35th Middlesex. With coffee hours, with town halls, here's my phone number, give me a call. I want to make myself available to you because that is what public service is about. That is what my parents taught me, and those are the values I want to take to the State House for you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks again to our candidates for their courage in stepping up here and participating in this forum. And next, we're going to hear a little bit more about the election from Karen Chen. She's going to finish the presentation she started, and then my understanding is there will be a raffle.
Yes. All right. Well, let's give Yawu another hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It's not easy to be a moderator. And thank you, the candidates. And I cannot be more excited. I think that every election should be like this, right? We have very exciting candidates, and that's a good thing. And but you will have to decide who you will vote for. And I'm just gonna here to talk about, hey, so after September 3rd, what's gonna happen? So I just want to give you people a little preview. I know that everyone now is more excited than ever for September 3rd, but there's also another election on November 5th. So on November 5th, you're gonna have all of the candidates that you vote for this year, right? President, right? All the positions I talked about earlier. And on top of that, there'll be also 5 ballot questions. They'll be very, very long. This is a short summary of those questions, okay? So your first question will be on auditing the state legislature. So the auditor actually, have a ballot question that whether or not you support having the auditor to audit the state legislature. And then question 2, I think we asked the candidates whether or not they support, and it's to eliminating MCAS as a graduation requirement. So I'm not going to talk about what it means now, but actually if you come to the next forum, we'll talk about what it means, right? And question 3 is about whether or not Uber Lyft drivers, how many of you guys know Uber Lyft drivers or use them? All right, lots of that. So it may impact you. So whether or not you support, right, unionization of Uber Lyft drivers. And then question 4 is about legalizing psychedelic mushrooms. I actually don't know what that is, but if you come to Nick's forum, someone will explain what that is. And question 5 is 1 fair wage for tip workers, right? Giving it 5 years for tip workers to have a minimum wage that's equivalent to the state minimum wage. So we will talk about that at the next forum. So when is the next forum? Ta-da! It will be on October 21st. It'll be a little bit later. I know it'll be darker then too, I know, but I hope you come back for it. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Also in City Hall. I think it's this room. It will be City Hall. You know, if it's not this room, there'll be signage. So please come back on the 21st so that you can learn more about November's election. It will be the most election in your lifetime as well, just like September 3rd. So now I'm going to turn to the staff members of Chinese Cultural Connection to do the raffle. Does everyone have their little raffle tickets?
We would like to have our candidates to help to
Oh,
pick the raffles. So this raffle ticket is really, yes. So we're gonna have each candidate to pick up 5 of them, and the prize is gonna be the a little jacket from LL Bean, right? LL Bean, yes. So it's a nice jacket. All right. So Nichole can start.
Yeah. Are we calling off the numbers too? Oh, okay. So 5 of them, you
Yes.
said? All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go.
Nope, that's 6. Sorry. Sorry, extra person.
All right.
All right.
Are you ready? You can call out the number now.
Okay. You guys ready for your participation bribe? Sorry. All right. 4773141. Anybody? Huh?
He wants it to be 5-1.
Oh, dag nabbit.
He wants it
No,
to be 5. Maybe I.
3141. Anyone?
Just the last 4?
Yeah. 4773141. Going once. Going twice. Should I say it one more time? Huh? Next, all right, here we go. 4773164.
Oh, good.
All right, we got a winner.
Go, Anthony.
Oh, the jacket may be too small.
Ooh.
It's my cousin's shirt.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, the Undertaker. He's a wrestler. He's my cousin.
Oh, thank you.
All right. 3157.
There you go.
Oh, wonderful. Very good. We can just read it. Save time.
Okay. Next one is 3137. Hey. All right, the next winner has to dance a jig, just so you know. 3138.
All right, Zayda. All right. Next winner. 3160. 3160. 3160. 3160. 3160. 3160 going once? No? Twice? 3160. Okay. 3150. 3150. 3150. 3150. Nope, everybody went home. Okay. 3150. Last call. 3150. I'm getting good at this. This is like my third time on this campaign. Okay, 3154. 3154. 3151. Ah, there we go. Yes. It's about time I hit somebody. Awesome. We have a winner. All right. 3152. 3152. 3152. 3152. 3152. 3152 going once, going twice. All my people left. Okay. 3155. I have all the numbers. 3155. 3155. 3155. 3155. No, no. I think this guy should get this.
No?
He's been wanting it. You should give it to him. We should just give it to him. Just say yes. I got one person out of 4.
Okay,
Yes.
So you can draw 2 more.
Hey.
Okay.
3150.
Uh-huh. You can draw 2 more.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, those are the ones that I just pulled. out.
So before we go, I think if you have any questions for the individual candidate, you can welcome to talk to them if they want to. And also again, Michael, Marlon, do you want to stand up to let people know where you are? So if you have any question for the candidate Paul Donato, you can come talk to Michael. Michael is Paul's campaign manager. Thank you.
Do you want to put them back? These are the ones I already. Okay. Oh, you want me to read them?
So that we have a couple more tickets to read.
Okay. 3171. 3171. That's a new number. 3171. Yeah, we got somebody. Three one five four. 3154. Anybody? 3154. Anybody? And last one, 3162. Weren't you 31 something? 65? Okay, just tell me. All right, yay, you got it.
Thank you so much for
He
your
deserves one. We should just give it to him,
participation.
please.
And we hope to see you at the next event. It's gonna be in the same room right here on October 21st at 7 o'clock. So you can have a dinner before you come. Thank you. Have a great week and
Yes,
great
dinner
evening.
Before we come is
Yeah.
good. Dinner before we come is good.
Thank you.